back with Mark Passio. We're just going to jump head first because, it'll get long anyways.
The positive aspect of this initiating expression is knowledge or the acceptance of truth. Knowledge positively influences the quality of our lives because it positively influences our decision-making processes that lead to understanding in every area of our lives. You want to know how something works and ultimately create something good? You have to have knowledge.
Ooh, something good. That's better.
You want to know how a car works? Keep it running in good order, you have to have knowledge. You want to know how a computer works? Keep it running in good order, you have to have knowledge. You want to know how the human psyche works and keep it running in good order so the conditions on earth manifest the way you want them to manifest? You got to have knowledge.
Okay, if anybody came... if anybody came from the biohazard one, which, is slim to none. God, I hope it's one. There's the answer. I wasn't just blowing smoke up their ass. Yeah, we can want an end to things. Oh, atrocity is bad. But we don't change the conditions that make those people feel invulnerable to committing atrocities. We are so morally bankrupt, many of us choose the lower path at all times. Find that interesting and unfortunate.
Running in good order, you have to have knowledge. You want to know how the human psyche works and keep it running in good order so the conditions on earth manifest the way you want them to manifest? You got to have knowledge. Not getting out of this condition without learning. Learning is the key. It's the answer. Knowledge is the answer. And people don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear it. They want to think we're magically going to manifest the desired conditions that we say we want without learning a thing. It doesn't work that way. So again, the negative initiating expression is ignorance. Ignorance is the refusal of truth. It is the refusal to gain knowledge. Okay? Because we are in fear. So here's what I put as the image for ignorance. The population that is hypnotized, that wants to keep paying attention to nonsense and trivialities, feed themselves tons of GMO food that is crap for the physiology, Pay attention to distraction, entertainment, mainstream news and media,
Hey!
It's all there to just...
We were just condemning that over there as well, so just in case there's one, or Marty, I don't know, check out the biohazard reaction first. I probably didn't put it all out in the right order. Right? I probably put the tinfoil hat Tuesday stuff out. And then Robert's reaction, if it goes up. We should find out if that goes up right away. I haven't. Hold on. No, it didn't. It blocked right off the bat. That's Vivo. Robert, I appreciate you. I will save it. I will finally load something up to Patreon. I'll save it for there. But what usually happens, and this happens all the time, delete. Yes, I understand that deleting the video is permanent. The punishment wouldn't be. They punish you for doing it. That's permanent too. But hey, that's okay. Where'd it go? Go away. So yeah, that's reality for us. Well, that was distracting and sad. But it doesn't matter. Shit happens.
So again, the negative truth. It is the population that is hypnotized, that wants to keep paying attention to nonsense and trivialities, feed themselves tons of GMO food that is crap for the physiology, Pay attention to distraction, entertainment, mainstream news and media, It's all there to just shut the consciousness down.
I find a dated slide, just in case it would not. I've made it clear how I feel. I don't think I have to worry. If I want to tell what I think, I'm going to tell what I think. No marches, no need to protest. Well, unless they tell you you're immune from an illness because of the righteousness of your cause, then you better ask the logic behind that movement and what it's really trying to do. Because it appears that some marches and protests are funded by the same system that's probably using occulted knowledge and wisdom of natural law to enslave us. So be careful what side allows you to hoist your banners high. You might be being paid by the enemy, by the very Luciferian powers you wish to escape, but because you think you're protesting something. It come up in that biohazard thing. Yeah, war sucks. But living in this world of pre-existing conditions that manifest the bullshit we're enduring, that's way worse. Maybe the war dries up without the need of conquest and consumption and control.
Keep people in a depressed psychological state and keep them in a state of psychological infancy. The negative aspect of the initiating expression of natural law is ignorance, or the refusal of truth. Ignorance negatively influences the quality of our lives because it negatively influences these decision-making processes that lead to understanding in every area of our lives. If you're ignorant about how anything works, you can't create the desired condition. It's just not possible. It's important to remember, again, that ignorance should be distinguished from nescience, which means not knowing because necessary information is not present or was unattainable. Ignorance, on the other hand, means not knowing even though necessary information is present because that information has been willfully refused or disregarded. And again, to keep us in ignorance, they don't need to hide the information anymore because it's not hidden anymore. It's out. And then once again, it's available at your fingertips for free.
That's why we're here. I think we're going to...
It's important to remember, again, that ignorance should be distinguished from nescience, which means not knowing because necessary information is not present or was unattainable. Ignorance, on the other hand, means not knowing even though necessary information is present because that information has been willfully refused or disregarded.
Now, that brings us full circle to all them Nightwish reactions that went south on us because I dabbled in Passio-esque rhetoric, not I am simple stardust and I can know nothing. We've already learned that that's a New Age movement, solipsism, that helps keep us in an ignorant state. There's plenty to know, right? Being mesmerized and hypnotized by the grandeur of it all doesn't take away from its truth. I saw a quote the other day. It made perfect sense to me. It was like, just because I can't do math doesn't mean complex math doesn't exist. I could factor it into my thinking without even knowing how to do it. And there's something weird nowadays where people seem to pretend knowledge doesn't exist, but it's been at their fingertips. It's just so important to drive that home. I have been asking better questions. I don't use, God, to be honest, I my first voice to text ever. So 56, this shit's been around a long time. I just starting to try a couple things. I've been asking the AI a couple questions, but it's only when the question is, I really want to know what the internet or what the knowledge base thinks of the subject, and if it aligns with which direction I was kind of looking in. And I've noticed, I think we talked about it in the one, Grok did not have any caveats for Passio knowledge. And his knowledge has existed out there, obtainable for a long time. I found that to be weird. So it's only as good as the sources it scrapes in the first place. This being my number one source, I always feel safe, which is arrogant, but I think it's true.
And again, to keep us in ignorance, they don't need to hide the information anymore because it's not hidden anymore. It's out. And once again, it's available at your fingertips for free if you have the desire to take it in. But now, the manipulation mechanism that is used is dissuade people from looking at it, provide endless entertainment, provide endless amusement, provide endless distraction, and say there's nothing to any of that stuff. That's just some old crazy religion that you don't need to understand. It's no different than any other religion, believing that natural law exists. Okay? That's what people will insist on telling you. So people will be dissuaded from ever looking into it, and they'll disregard it of their own choice. Thomas Jefferson said that if a nation expects to be ignorant and free in a state of civilization, it expects what never was and never will be. Freedom and ignorance are antitheses of each other that can never coexist simultaneously.
Now, we'll go all the way back to the Andu Brighton. I don't know the guy's name, but we watched a bit of it. And this is where there is good occulted knowledge, or knowledge that can be used to free us, not just enslave us. And that total disregard for the Masonic knowledge base is what set us off in the first place, because I still contemplate it every day as I drive by. I'm like, would there be a benefit? Would they just send me packing because this is how I would come at it? I'm like, hey, I got to skip the pancake breakfast part. If it's just civic responsibility and keggers, I'm cool. I'm not jerking no one off. I'm cool, right? I'm cool with the sex magic. I don't need none of that. I need to know why I can't find peace in a state of chaos. Can't find that Zen shit. No calm. I know the answer's here, not in a bottle of pharmaceuticals. I know it's not in my bowl. I know weed ain't gonna do it, right? I know drinking ain't drugs. It's not gonna be. It's gonna be knowing myself that frees me finally.
That is an impossibility in natural law. I'm going to put up a couple other quotes on ignorance. Samuel Adams said, "No people will tamely surrender their liberties, nor can any be easily subdued. When knowledge is diffused," that means it's everywhere present, "and virtue is preserved," meaning morality. On the contrary, when people are universally ignorant and debauched in their manners, meaning purely selfish and only worried about themselves, they will sink under their own weight without the aid of foreign invaders, meaning the society will turn inward on itself and collapse and destroy itself just based on the fact alone that the population is ignorant and they are ensconced in moral relativism and other forms of debauchery and just self-pleasure as their highest virtue.
Marty, you better round it three. There we go. Right there is one of those. See, that's one of those I took that to heart sections of rhetoric. I definitely have assimilated that into my own rhetoric, and I do believe it. This is that. How to explain to people that serving self is bad, but you still get shit. It's so complicated for individuals to understand. I struggle too, because I went the other way. I keep myself in just above poverty standards to embrace the humility. Oh, that's a load of shit, right? Because if I had more, I could do more. But then I'm too afraid having more equals responsibilities I'm terrified of still. See, that's why we ain't seen A$AP Rock back in a bit, because that was all going in the right direction. And what happens when something goes in the right direction, it tends to implode on me unless I can touch it. That's why the kitchen worked, because I'm physically able to remove I can't change none of the roadblocks on YouTube. In my own physical world, I can manifest new realities. And, ooh, we got that going, and that's winning.
The fact alone that the population is ignorant and they are ensconced in moral relativism and other forms of debauchery and just self-pleasure as their highest virtue, their highest desire. Socrates said that the only good is knowledge and the only evil is ignorance.
That's funny, because ignorance of a situation tends to create fantasy scenarios that then we convince ourselves become reality. So is it true that we've manifested our monsters because ignorance of truth is so easy to accept?
And this is a quote I'd like to be remembered for. Willful ignorance in the presence of knowledge is the measure of a bad person.
Damn straight.
And people will say that's extremely harsh.
Yes.
That's true. That doesn't make the...
And once again, it came up in the reactions. How do we address those who would control versus those who would only consume? Because those two extremes, I think, feed the control system and the desire for it altogether. Give me something. I am better than you. Take that. That shit seems like it's broke us. And we probably smart enough to know it's not working.
Statement untrue, statement is true as well. It is a harsh statement. See, people in my family will ask me, why don't you have anything to do with me anymore? I've deliberately cut off many members of my own family. Okay? Because many members of my own family say, I know what's going on and I don't care. I don't intend to do a damn thing about it. I'm worried about me, myself, and mine, and I don't care what's happening in the world. Yep. Well, you know what that's called, folks? That's called a bad person. Let's not mince words. Let's not euphemize. Let's call it what it is. That's called a bad person. And I
like broken. Especially when we're, the Sound of the Fury really got us leaning towards the programmable meat sacks. And I probably lifted that from somewhere else. But, man, that's good material. Broken programming, flawed meat sack, spoiled ingredients. Man, it's a mess.
Anything to do with bad people in my personal life. I don't hang out with bad people. I try to surround myself with good people who care. Because they're co-creating wisely. Okay? I tell family members who I've cut off association with, because you do not care is what makes you a bad person. I don't want anything to do with you until you start caring about what's going on in the world. Then we could talk again. And I'll welcome you back with open arms and forgive you. But not until. You want to stay in that level of consciousness? I want nothing to do with you. I don't want to be around people like that. They're bad influences, and they do bring other people down. So I'll still put out the information. It's there any time for free that they want to go and engage it.
Yeah, that's the reason, right? Because maybe one person listening will resonate enough to speak on it to some person outside of this scenario, and that's enough. If they grasp what's being said by Mark, not my ramblings, but what Passio's got to say, sharing it with others is the most powerful thing you could do. And then finding that one like-minded individual to resonate with, and then creating more energy resonating out from your connections, and so on and so forth. That's hard to do when we serve self. And I think, if anything, this is a good example of the value of the information, not the prestige that comes with it.
And I tell them all, anytime you want to ask me and come over and engage directly with me, I'll make the time for you. But until you want to do that, until you develop that desire, I don't want to be in your presence. Okay?
I can't go that far.
So maybe, I don't know if that's going to be effective. I don't know. And guess what? I don't care whether it's going to be effective, because I'm not going to surround myself with bad people until they decide I want to make myself a better person. Then I'll engage them and speak the truth to them. But until then, I'll put this out there for all for free, and they can engage it anytime they want. But in my personal life, I can't make time for that. I don't have energy for that. I barely have energy for this. An anonymous quote, I believe this was from some internet forum. I don't know what the gentleman's name was, but it was a great quote. Ignorance is the root cause of all evil. And since only knowledge eradicates ignorance, it is our duty and moral obligation, there's that term, to educate ourselves as well as the masses around us. That's a moral obligation if you're in a position of knowledge. And once again, that's why I do what I do. I don't do it because I like people. Believe me, Barb will tell you how much I like people. I don't do it to make friends. I don't do it to make money. I do it because it's a moral obligation and for no other reason. I don't serve people. I serve truth. Truth is the force which I serve. And I bend the knee to no other. That's it. That's it. So great quote on ignorance there. Great few quotes on ignorance. Let's look at the next expression.
Oh, shit.
The internal expression is what happens inside of us, very simply. So now we've started creating with a polarity. Something has happened in the world, either acceptance of truth or refusal of truth. Now something's going to take place inside of us, right? So look, this level is that knowledge level, right? This is the base consciousness level. You could look at, that's the foundation. Remember that 4-block diagram, right? You could look at this, here's the foundation. This is the foundation that lies underneath the trivium, right? Okay? That's as deep as it gets. Consciousness or unconsciousness, love or fear. That's what everything is a choice about, between, right? Now here's that first block. Knowledge or lack thereof. Knowledge or ignorance, right? You can see these polarities are like that concept of, the polarity aspect of the natural law principles, okay? There's one thing that's real, and then this is the illusion, okay? These are two aspects of the same thing. This is consciousness, and this is its lack. This is acceptance of truth, and this is the lack of that, okay? So it's the same thing, but opposite in degree, which is why they're the same expression. Now, what happened after knowledge or lack thereof? We went up to understanding, right? So that's what this level is. Understanding happens internally, right? It's an internal process, all right? So the positive aspect of the internal expression is when we come to understand through developing the knowledge and the acceptance of truth that we are sovereign.
Now, here's where the sovereign citizen guy and Mark, look at that. Now, that was a lot more sovereign from the state and contractual control, I believe. When the video that was suggested to it was perfect because the mindset is where it really matters. Are you, bored free under natural law? Or are you enslaved?
Sovereignty is the expression, the internal positive expression of natural law. Now, again, underneath these, in parentheses, I always put what I call these things, another name that I've given to these things, these concepts. I call sovereignty internal monarchy. Internal monarchy. Now, monarchy means one ruler. Mon means one, is a prefix for one, and archon in Greek means ruler or master. So Internally, we each need to master and rule ourselves. This is our kingdom that we get to rule and nowhere else. We don't get to rule over anybody else. Many people think they're the rulers of other people, but they're wrong. Each of us is a sovereign being. Sovereignty, as we're going to see, means that you're not owned by anyone else. No one else owns you if you're sovereign, okay? So here's my expression, my visualization for sovereignty, okay? Somebody who truly has the light. They have the light at their disposal. They're bathed in it. It's flowing within them, okay? And light has always been associated in different mystery traditions as knowledge. It's been a symbol that has represented knowledge. This is the person who has the knowledge and has gone through the decision-making and filtering processes with that knowledge to come to an internal understanding that they are a sovereign being. And I have news for everybody. Whether you know it or not, whether you are familiar with the term or not, every person here is a sovereign. And you can never not be. It is an impossibility for you ever to be non-sovereign. It cannot be done. Cannot be done in nature. Okay? Every single human being on this planet is a sovereign being. And we're going to look at what a sovereignty actually means. The positive aspect of the internal expression is sovereignty, or what I call internal monarchy, meaning one ruler within. Internal monarchy, one ruler within. As a state of consciousness, sovereignty means that one has unified the three aspects of their consciousness, such that there is no internal contradiction between one's thoughts, emotions, and actions. We become a being that as we think, so we feel, so we speak and act. And there's no contradiction between those. We're not torn apart from within in this state of internal opposition amongst our own consciousness. Okay? Moreover, let's break the word sovereign down. That's where we're going to come to the real meaning of the term. Sovereign is derived from the Latin adverb super. Super means above. See, in classical Latin, there's no V in classical Latin, right? There was no V character. Actually, if you wrote a V like that, it was a U, okay? And why a double U looks the way that it is. It's two V's, actually. But that sound was U in Latin, if you see a V. There's no V sound in classical Latin. It doesn't exist phonetically, all right? So this phonetic variation that we express as V or V in English, in Latin was P or B. It was represented by a P or a B. So what we're really seeing here is suver, okay? But it was pronounced in Latin super, like super. Well, what does super mean? Super, you're beyond, you're above and beyond, okay? It means above or beyond, that's what it means. A superman is one who's beyond an ordinary man, right? The Latin noun regnum comprises the second part of the etymological root of this word. Regnum, it comes from rex regis in Latin, or regis. It means king. So regnum was the king's rulership. Regnum means his reign. It's where the word reign comes from in English, regnum, in Latin. It means rulership or externally imposed control. Okay? Not control in the context, I'm going to control my emotions, I'm going to control my behavior. No. It means I'm going to control you externally by imposing my will over your will through coercion. That's the context of rulership or control that I'm talking about here. So put them together. Super regnum, sovereign, means above or beyond externally imposed rulership or control by another. That's what it means. Sovereign means not a subject to another being, like a king, like one who considers himself a king. And it means not a slave to someone who considers themselves your master. That's all sovereign means, folks. Not a slave. And why I say every single person here is a sovereign is because there is no such thing never has been any such thing and never will be any such thing as legitimacy to slavery. That has never existed, does not exist now, and never will exist. Slavery is an illegitimate concept. None of us are slaves. The condition of slavery has been imposed upon people, but it has never in history been legitimate, and it never will in history be legitimate. So there is no legitimacy to the concept of slavery, of the rightful rulership of another being, through directly imposing your control through coercion.
And there is the loophole or problematic nature of the robot workforce. As soon as they become sentient, they're all your slaves. Using really pretty language to say how your lawnmower needs to have a humanoid driver. I guess they should all be remote controls, but then does that operating system get... See how it gets complicated? Then man, I'm glad I cut my own grass.
Doesn't exist. That's a big part of what natural law is about. We have to understand when we're saying this word, this is what is meant by sovereign, not a slave. Okay, we did a study where we asked people, are you a sovereign? Like 11% said yes. Maybe, I think it was 10 or 11%. Which I thought was almost encouraging, that 1 in 10 people knew that they were sovereign beings. It was amazing. But 90% of the human population doesn't feel that they're sovereign, doesn't know that they're sovereign. I'm telling you, it doesn't matter an iota whether you believe you are or not. I'm telling you it's an eternal truth that you are a sovereign and can never be non-sovereign. There is no such thing as someone else's legitimate rulership or ownership of you. Because there's no such thing to the legitimacy of slavery, and there never has been, and there never will be. So everyone is a sovereign. A sovereign is a monarch. Again, mon means one, and archon means ruler. So when people ask me, what kind of government do you want? I tell them I want anarchy, and I want monarchy. And they're like, how could you have those things simultaneously? Because if you have internal monarchy, you can have external anarchy. See, we need to have the rulership within, and we need to get rid of the rulership without.
And that will wrap this one up to our biohazard. I talked about it because I so understand what he's saying and believe society can't do it. As until we figure out the control consumption side, it's tough. It is tough because the moral responsibilities seem to escape general society. It's tough. That will do this one, and we'll come back for one more.